This is Jenny Solaria Delfini, and today we just want to briefly talk about the global network, also known as the Net Matrix, which is above us, on the topic of maintaining consciousness and uniting our consciousness in higher dimensions. Why is it so difficult? We'll keep it brief. We could simply imagine that in everything we do in our daily lives and in all meditations, in everything we try to change in our lives, something is constantly working against us. And we could say it would be too general to say it's mind control, or it's the HARP clouds and the HARP system, or other forms of mind control like Bluetooth transmitters or cell towers or underground facilities. Instead, it's a comprehensive concept that can be understood as a network technology where several things merge into one another. It's simply a global network made up of various things, for example, also built with CERN included. So in principle, it is supposed to cut off the cosmic flow of information to the individual soul and the individual incarnated human, and it is supposed to overlay the connection to the vibration we need from the earth, to overlay the Schumann resonance and thus block the light body process. Yes, and in professional circles they speak of the so-called Net Matrix. And when people sign up for Netflix, they have given their consent to it. So they have not only signed up physically with Netflix to download videos, but also connected to this concept of energetic quarantine, a so-called frequency prison. And you can see it in those who have subscribed, what it actually means for them. They can hardly get out of it. They don't even have to watch physically. They have signed up with their astral body, and it is entertained all the time and downloads the videos. It's no longer physically necessary because, as mentioned, it's an energetic quarantine. And what we're talking about now really goes beyond this network technology. It goes far beyond the mere satellites and encompasses a multidimensional control system that is supposed to shut down the ley lines and the associated frequency wave systems that shape and inform the ley lines, for example, the pyramids. You could also say that it involves a huge or several huge artificial grids, like mental prisons or cages, to better imagine it. And if you describe it physically, it's an artificial ionospheric grid, a roof over this matrix. And for example, satellite networks like Starlink form the outer layer of a Faraday cage, for example, around the Earth. And this then creates a frequency blockade in our astral body. And the goal is to filter and distort the incoming high-frequency gamma rays that are now streaming down on people from the galactic center who have entered the awakening state, who have already been brought into resonance through their soul development, which also ends here in the last incarnation. And the goal is to filter and distort these. So the frequency blockade distorts this energy transmission in these rays, which were originally intended as upgrade codes for our human DNA after our completed light body processes, and are also necessary for us to reach a state of consciousness where we cannot progress with the human ego, but are docked from above, and the information is taken over into us, and we don't have to do anything else but switch over, just like in the Avatar movie, where you simply get a new body. It's just transferred, and this is overlaid. This possibility that we can do this, that we can enter a higher subtle dimensional body, a multidimensional body, is then prevented through this artificial creation. The natural connection to the Earth's resonance is additionally hijacked, and humans no longer resonate with the Earth, but with exactly this technological network. That's why it's also called Netflix, the cursed net. And so they always have to say everything. And these mental prisons include archontic programming, as we have been saying for many years. This artificial grid not only affects our DNA or the development of our physical and subtle bodies, the connection is needed through the blood, but it also directly affects the mental body. For example, the well-known thought loops, certain frequency waves can keep the human mind in these low beta waves, causing stress, which is why we need to meditate much more and also recommend it. And this then prevents access to alpha and theta states. So automatically, if you sit down nowadays and want to relax, as it was easily possible before, like pressing a button, sitting under a tree, going into nature, and then it happens that you enter such deep theta or alpha states. This is no longer possible today. It's a worldwide network, and you no longer reach true intuition, true heart connection, but this artificial cosmic archontic prison. You only think you've relaxed or you've forgotten how it really works. And it really is that the cells simply forget. They have simply forgotten because you never arrive. You work against the current, which brings the body to incredible stress. And we experience this as naturopaths, how the bodies are stressed even though there is no reason for it. They just never relax anymore. Yes, and in this Net-Flix, in this cursed net, there are also additional artificial timelines. So the matrix within it forces us into a linear artificial time that feels different from normal time. So we think, wow, time is passing so quickly, or time seems to stand still, or we simply forget what was just real, and that's an artificial prison. This perception of time doesn't match reality because we're trapped in it. And that separates us from the present and the only point where one can mentally exit the matrix. And that's not real. And for an individual, it's very, very difficult to A, see through it, B, get out of it, and C, even become aware that they're stuck in it. And from our perspective, it's only possible with a larger group that works intensively together in their physical lives, in their reality, to step out of this network. You have to do much more than just meditate. It's crucial to ground the physical body in detail like never before. Because people who are grounded are awake. People who aren't grounded aren't awake. And somewhere in between is today's fast food spirituality. When we entered the market at a very young age, there was still real spirituality, although distorted by the new cage and spirit beings. Already the first attempt was held back from true spirituality. But now it's just devoured, read as if becoming spiritual next weekend, and the 16th degree of Reiki will change everything, but nothing happens. It always stays the same, and this fast food spirituality remains stagnant. There's virtually no development in the market, at least not among those who are public and promote seminars, and that makes a huge difference to those who truly live it. Everything changes in their lives. And back to this Net-Flix thing, this mental prison. It feeds a collective fear and acts like an amplifier for private and collective fears, which connects to crisis hotspots like Iran, Israel, the USA, and so on, Dubai, showing what's really happening all the time in parallel, waiting for emotional reactions to synchronize in this network and lower our astral bodies to create a uniform low vibrational mass. They harvest our free energy, because even if we say, okay, we read these news or note this crisis in Iran and think we don't react, our emotional body does, and this emotional reaction releases energy. It's captured by this network, and then they harvest us. And this is the so-called harvesting process they do with us. It's been going on for centuries with executions, burnings, witch burnings, as far back as you look. They've been harvesting this louche energy. This is simply a huge problem. And now they do it technically and even get consent from the masses through the cursed network. Now let's move on to an important point, that through all the nanotechnologies that are everywhere, for example, colloidal silver is now made with nanotechnology. This allows the artificial grid to penetrate deeper into humans because we've moved into nanotechnology and taken it in without having any idea what we're actually doing. So we make the physical body antenna ready for this network. And there's also an important role regarding heavy metals, which are captured in this nano area and can only be removed through nanotechnology. So many components have been thought through. that with the simplest means, as spread in the broad market of naturopathy, it can no longer be removed. And it's much more compact and extensive than what we dealt with 20 or 10 years ago. But the fact is, there's no one out there who can oversee the entire complex, and accordingly, give a recipe or guidance to an individual, because it wouldn't help anyway. This market isn't in demand. It's not in demand because there can only be a concept for a group. It takes a group of Bovie units because an individual can never reach the Bovie units a group can, whether they like each other or not. The fact is they're in the same elevator and have the same goal, the same floor selected. The rest is ego party, doesn't matter. As long as they keep doing the same thing and constantly push against these technologies, these networks and control systems, they tear a huge so-called ozone hole in the sky. They shred this shield, and that helps individuals worldwide who have just stepped into this elevator and don't yet know what to expect, that they'll be thrown out of the elevator alone again. Within a few days, 14 days, however long, they'll be thrown out again. They can't stay in this elevator because they don't have enough Bovie units. That's our problem today, why forming groups of like-minded people, no matter where they are worldwide, is the most essential last step to complete this cycle of consciousness. And every ego of these people thinks I can do it alone. As always, I'll do my own thing. No, it's over. The human ego must overflow into a we. And that's the last step to enter the crown chakra. You can read all the spiritual texts you want. It always ends with we and group consciousness. And that's the crown. Everyone is stuck in the sixth chakra, the masses, not to judge, but we observe it repeatedly, that there's always a relapse into the human ego. And the group, which still consists of people worldwide whom we don't even know, sits in the elevator, presses the button and presses the button, and you wonder why they get claustrophobic, because it just doesn't move forward. You just have the feeling that it's not moving forward, and yet it is moving forward. Perhaps a brief note that we also have a huge issue with heavy metals. There are people in elevators who are contaminated with heavy metals. Through this bioaccumulation, such as chemtrails, contaminated foods, injections, we're now talking about the special injections, these often mentioned metals, aluminum, barium, strontium, graphene oxide, enter the body. And it's all a really nice nanotechnology concept. By whom? Of course, by Microsoft inventor Bill Gates, whose statement now is all microbiological software. Developer. He has never intended anything other than to program and biologically control people. Microsoftware. So he makes software for the microchips in the human body. Microsoft, the software of microbiology. What a shock. And Bill Gates, gates are the gates, and billions of gates are being opened. That's what he stands for and breathes. His mere existence is enough to cause that thought field. Okay, but back again to these bioaccumulations, or also the role of heavy metals. We have an interface formation, as it's called in professional circles. These particles that enter our body deposit in the tissue and also in the brain, forming an internal reception grid for this so-called Net-Flix without us noticing. The human becomes, so to speak, a node within this artificial matrix structure. And that's where we currently find ourselves, that in addition to our actual ascension process in our consciousness, we are in another hostile body, in another artificial matrix structure in the nanotechnology area. And this Net-Flix also exists under another name. As mentioned, they actually call it Net Matrix, but some also call it the Phantom Matrix. And it is actually warned that this grid creates a copy of our own reality in our mind, a kind of digital spirituality that no longer has consensus, no longer has fulfillment, no longer has a background, and no longer really changes anything. It is the so-called false awakening. The Matrix offers its own ascension concepts, such as, and we just want to warn again because there are now so many statements, also Lasat physics and so on. Yes, or let's go back to the Merkaba. Mental prisons created by the draconians, which are basically artificial D-concepts where you put your mental body in and completely shatter your astral body and disconnect yourself, then drift lost in space somewhere on the astral plane because you've lost all grounding. No normal person does that unless they are mental and want a mental path and finally be redeemed. But that's not the way to cut off the emotional body and be in such a Merkaba rotation of opposing movements. The seekers will be led completely into a mental dead end instead of true organic freedom and also into the unity where they actually belong. The only area to explain a way out of the grid we've just described, the only area that the grid cannot fully control is our 0 point in the heart. And remember our mental emotional healing. 15 years ago, we held many seminars. Thousands of people were there. We showed how to get into the zero space, move into the soul space, and there bring astral bodies into resonance with intentions and purposes, with the actual goal. The path is really the 0 point in the heart, on the one hand, to hold it, to find it, to use it. Then the detoxification, the absolutely intense detoxification of these heavy metals and these things, the nanobots, the nanoparticles, so to drain them from the body. We have already given many instructions, we all know about it. Those who have been with us for many years, to lower the resonance capability for the artificial grid. Then, of course, there is also the second, the natural resonance. This means that we must spend an extreme amount of time in untouched nature where the organic field of the earth is still stronger than the artificial signal. So far out of the range of transmission towers, cell phones, Wi-Fi zones, Bluetooth transmitters for several weeks up to months or years to reactivate the actual memories, the natural biological consciousness, which is rewritten every day for every person. When you sit back at the cell phone or go on the internet and don't switch your computer to airplane mode or don't keep your phone permanently on airplane mode, you are always connected. You are basically looking into the black box in this turn matrix. And thirdly, it is also important to find the way out of this global grid. Absolute mental sovereignty, always said, independence and self-empowerment. And every time you recognize a fear programming, or consciously choose love, gratitude, and peace, one of the wires of the mental prison breaks and you fall out. They can do nothing against this free will. It must be done. We currently have more meditations on the market than ever before. Every week, every month, new deep relaxations and meditations are released, which are channeled exactly to this present time, adapted, and no matter what content they have, they get you all out of this grid. Because they were channeled from outside, they are definitely a bridge, a light bridge. We just want to leave these important messages here once again. There is much more to do. It hasn't gotten easier. But once you get into the habit of keeping your body active with daily exercise, teaching it to detox again, reminding it that it needs to do something, it works. As I said, most people take care of their car, put in the right oils, do maintenance, services, even keep a service book and so on, but not their physical body. And they don't really care what they put into it because they've long forgotten that it has its own rules to function well. And if that's not done, if you don't have a great blood test, no checkup, no health check, and you don't know from top to bottom which supplements are specifically necessary for you, it's absolutely individual, depending on the environment, depending on genetics. These are all the things we currently do here at the Soul Venus Center in the comprehensive health checkup for you. These things are created within a day for everyone, and after that you can live by them, you can build up your cells, regenerate, and you must be ready to invest energy in the right points, and we are ready to help you with that. That's just how it is. You can do a new checkup every month. You can get advice on exactly what is needed, and you will notice an improvement in your overall well-being after just a few hours. And accordingly, the improvement in your mental ability to connect with the true being that you really are. And it's not just about a nutrition plan, it's about a healing plan that is created. And we offer a lot of new things for you in the coming weeks and throughout the year. And we have adapted to what we can play in 2026, just to tell you that we have revised everything and are starting top up to date in the coming weeks, and you can jump on board. So press the button in the elevator and you're in. Until now, with love and gratitude.